Welcome to part 2 of my interview with Max McCalman, where we discuss the secrets to successful cheese and wine pairing.
The first consideration to successful cheese and wine pairings is if you're hungry and you're thirsty, it will probably work. It is the best food you can put in your mouth, bar none, cheese. And arguably, the best beverage could be wine. If you're unsure about the water, drink the wine. But beyond hunger and thirst, I think that other easy to assess considerations come into play. The cheese is savory, has a little bit of salt in it, some more than others, and usually the best partner for a fairly salty cheese is a fairly sweet or fruity wine. So this is a balancing act between cheese and wine. Hunger, thirst, of course, is at the top. Another thing that I think is fairly easy to recognize is if it is a big flavored cheese, it can overwhelm the wine or beer or any other beverage. So I look for big flavors usually to complement big flavors. If it's a gentle cheese, maybe a gentle wine would be the best match. The temperature of the cheese must be at room temperature, no colder, otherwise the pairing is not going to succeed. And for the wines or beers need to be presented at the appropriate temperature for the wines or beers also to make the pairing work. Also, I'm a little disappointed to report that I find that pasteurized cheeses tend to be a little more successful than unpasteurized varieties. And I think this is largely because the aromatic esters have been shunted somewhat, and so they don't have those they're not as aggressive or less challenging or more forgiving. But to find those marriages made in heaven between cheeses and wines or beers, I think that the raw milk cheese are the ones that offer up those experiences far better than the pasteurized varieties. You know, it's, I remember my first favorite reds were Bordeaux's and Left Bank Bordeaux. I still love Cabernet Sauvignon, but I don't have to go to France to get to Waguda now. And I can't afford those first growth Bordeaux's anyway, so or the second or the third, either for that matter.
Yeah, I have to come up further down the ladder.
There's a lot of dogma, for example, that if it is a cheese from a region, the wine from the same region is going to be the obvious match. Some of the best matches that I found are produced on opposite sides of the planet. For example, from Australia, some of the Shiraz from Australia pair beautifully with some of these thistle-rented cheeses from Portugal and from Spain. To me, it's like, it's better than peanut butter and jelly. It's a great match, and something comes out of the cheese and out of those Shiraz that is like, wow, that's a great match. So just because it comes from the same place or the same region, I think is a little too easy. And they should work, and those will be some of the first pairings that I'll try. Cheese and wines from the same terroir, but there's so much to it and there's so much that goes into winemaking, and so much that goes into cheese making. To say that they came from the same places, I think, is missing so many other factors. But for my whites, I went to Burgundy. I love the white Burgundies. That's why I put Garrocha on the front cover of my second book, is because back in the 90s when I was starting to make these pairings, I had a great match between a Garrocha and an old Meursault, a white Meursault. And I was like, wow, this is the best thing that's ever happened to a white Burgundy.
Yeah. That's right.
There has been this dogma that you have cheese with red wine. And now it's gone 180 degrees, and people say, oh, cheese only works with white wine. Red wines do have their tannins that can be problematic for cheese pairings, but I found some lovely pairings for many red wines. And I usually find white wines are a little more successful because of the lack of tannins. And I don't know why they call them dessert wines. I think they should be called cheese wines, because those can work very well with cheeses. When I'm already having a sweet dessert, to have a sauterne on top of a sweet dessert seems a little bit much. It sounds like a headache to me, actually. Well, yeah, Americans are just now learning the umami word. So that comes up in the, as far as pairings, I mentioned this is part of what makes pairings delightful, or is to have that which this cheese has quite a bit of.
Oh yeah, what's really going on? That's just lovely.
And it's so sexy. It just goes on and on. I think it is also important in tasting cheese and wines that you follow a progression from mild to strong, so you don't miss the subtleties in the milder cheeses. And it's good to allow yourself time and not rush it. You can develop palate fatigue much more quickly if you go through it too quickly. It also helps to have a little bit of a neutral bread or cracker in between pairings so you can taste the next combination more fairly. And water, the great universal palate cleanser that water is. And not to drink too much, and so you don't lose that judgment too quickly. My editor asked me to write a book entitled Mastering Cheese. I said, well, how many words do I get? And she said, 300,000. And I said, well, if that's all I get, then it's going to have a disclaimer underneath the title. And the little disclaimer is Lessons for Connoisseurship from a Maître Fromager. And instead of giving her 300,000 words, I gave her 450,000 words. And I thought, she's the editor, she can deal with this. But she turned it back over to me and she said, no, you have to cut it down. And so I cut out about 70,000 words. And it's,
maybe you should put volume 1.
Yeah. The cheese clock, the fundamental importance of the cheese clock is that when you have a range of cheeses at a cheese shop, it can be overwhelming. You're looking at hundreds of cheeses, or if it's only 100 cheeses, it's still, you don't know where to begin. You know you want to have some cheese, you want to entertain, you want to have a nice selection. The cheese clock is, I think the most important part of the cheese clock is this a mild cheese? Is it milder than this cheese, or is it a strong cheese? If it's a blue cheese, it's hard to top. Once you have a blue cheese in the mouth, there's nowhere else to go besides chocolate or sex or something. You know, it's a fine cigar. In the industry, people are still looking at cheese as an indulgence, and I want to assure people that they can eat as much as they want to. It's not going to be a problem. It's not for me. As a matter of fact, we have some cheese waiting for us, so if we can have some cheese here in a few minutes, it's been a few hours since I've had some, so we'll feel much better after. We'll feel happier, too, with a little bit of cheese.
People always ask me, do you ever get cheesed out? Do you ever get sick of eating cheese? And I just think, I don't think that's ever going to happen to me.
No way.
Ever. It's never happened so far.
No.
Even at Bra, eating cheese all day, all night, days in a row, here.
No.
I just never tire of eating cheese.